Let's Talk Oculus, a VR podcast, is proudly sponsored by the good folks at Patreon. If you want to support the show, join us on patreon.com/Let's Talk Oculus. What's up, Oculus nerds? Welcome back to Let's Talk Oculus, episode 58. I'm Dan, and with me as always, the captain, Samson, I'd call him, because he has a ship now. How you doing?
Oh, let's get this party started. I have a feeling, this will be a really unforgettable episode.
A lot of puns there, a lot of puns. I think this might be one of our best podcasts yet. I'm not going to lie. I think this might be one of our best ones. So today we do have a special show. We have, we're going to be joined by Edward, the developer at Mighty Coconut. He is best known, obviously, by Walkabout Mini Golf. He works on the art more than anything, so he works on the assets. He's been there since, I believe, the Gothic course is what he mentioned. Mm-hmm. And earlier today, actually, we dived into Walkabout. Shout out to PJ from VR Verdict and Kai, who's one of the patrons who helped us record this session.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But we were in there, we were talking a lot about obviously the new DLC, about just Walkabout's process in general, potential new updates coming and potential game modes that they've thought about. We talked about
we hit it all. Yeah,
we covered a lot of bases, and I'm not gonna lie to you, Samson, I think I had a lot of fun. I had probably one of my most fun podcasts I've ever done.
So much fun. That was a blast. Time flew. Just flew. We didn't even golf. Time flew.
No, we didn't even golf.
So
we kept jumping around to different scenes in different courses and such. But yeah, we didn't even golf. But anyway, we'll stop yapping about. Before we show you, just going to give you that housekeeping as usual. For anyone who's new here, Let's Talk Oculus releases every single Wednesday on all good podcast platforms and some rubbish ones as well. You can watch the video version on YouTube. Now, we have a lot of audio listeners. In fact, we have way more audio listeners than YouTube. This is one for YouTube, you can listen to it absolutely fine in the audio and you're not going to miss out too much. The only thing is that it's pretty cool watching us in Walkabout doing this podcast. Yeah. It's like just watching us from
the Nautilus.
Yeah, exactly. Knife from the Nautilus. And I think it's a really cool YouTube video. So definitely check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. It's at Let's Talk Oculus. And also we have a Discord where we always play in Walkabout almost every single Wednesday. So definitely join us in there for multiplayer games like Walkabout and other ones that we've jumped into. And we also jump in a big screen now and again because 20,000 Leagues in the Sun under the Sea, is something that we did watch in there a few weeks ago.
Yep, and we'll probably be watching in preparation for the next Jules Verne. I believe it'll be
Around the World.
Oh God, it'll either be the Around the World in 88 Days or the one where they go to they take that journey to the center of the Earth.
Yeah. Got it.
But yeah, if you like big putts, come on down to our Discord.
If you like big putts and you cannot lie. Anyway, enough for us yapping and trying to give puns and all that stuff. Here is Edward from Walkabout Mini Golf. All right, welcome. We have Edward here joining us from Mighty Coconut, i.e. the creators from Walkabout. Edward, thanks for joining us. I just want to say, before we kind of get into everything here, I want to speak on the behalf of me, Samson, and probably everyone in the Let's Talk Oculus community. Thank you for creating such an amazing game. We are in it literally every single week together, and it's become more of a social hub more than an actual game for us. So I just want to say we really appreciate it.
Your game has helped us grow our community.
They talk about face tracking. We really need blush tracking. So you guys can see how much you're making me smile.
Edward, obviously we'll talk about the new DLC, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, in a moment. But just about you, what is your kind of background with Mighty Coconut? What do you do, and how long have you been at the company?
So I'm a relatively new coconut in that I've been with Mighty Coconut for 2 years. Which might seem like a long time, especially considering the game is about 2 years old. But from what I've discovered is that people, you know, they work at Mighty Coconut, they might leave for a project, but everyone comes back. Every time there's a new co-worker, they go, oh yes, well they worked in Mighty Coconut back in 1643 and they liked everyone so much they couldn't stay away. So I have a feeling I've entered a contract for life, which is not a thing to be upset about. I am one of the main modelers. So previously I did a lot of the environment modeling, like Labyrinth. I did most of the environment, or the maze, or the walls, stuff like that. Sweetopia, that's got a lot of my work. They sort of let me go. Tether Station, that's entirely my work. They just sort of handed me something and said, we'll check in a while. Now I am more the transition from the art to the tech side, so more modeling artists hand me something like the Nautilus. This was a training ground for a lot of people, and we'll get into that in a bit more detail in a bit. And I clean all of it up and go, okay, well, I know this is what the tech team wants, and so I'm sort of interpreting the art and making sure it works for the tech guys. I also do like the putters and the golf balls, which they will take from my cold dead hands. It's my favorite thing in the world is making the putters and the golf balls.
Have you chosen one of your favorite putters?
I really love the original Gothic one because it feels very, elegant. I mean, there's a lot of, really, really fun putters, but say this and the Cherry Blossom putter, which is just sort of nice, ornate wood, they feel like something I'd almost use in real life. I think, oh, okay, this one, it looks like a real putter. Also, there's a slightly selfish element in that these putters were done before we had sort of a full-time sort of concept art team. Whereas now all the putters, they go through lots of revisions. We all work together as a team, which makes them objectively better. But purely on a selfish front, I go, this one is me.
This is the OG.
It's mine.
It's all yours.
I was about to say the putter that Samson's got at the moment, which is like what would you call it? Like a stick, essentially. Can
I
you
call
remember
it my
what course that
Gandalf
was
stick
from?
myself. I believe
Can you
it's
remember what
Seagull
course that was
Stacks,
from?
the hard.
Seagull Stacks. In Seagull Stack, that actually makes a lot of sense. So me and my uncle's in the UK, I'm in Canada, and the way we connect, we don't really go on FaceTime or call each other. It's just through Walkabout. It just seems to be the way we connect. And we do a lot of the fox hunts together. And we did the Seagull Stacks, which makes a lot of sense now. And we got that putter over there. And then after we got it, we were like, oh, that looks kind of like a broomstick, like a Harry Potter kind of thing. So we ended up just using the fly mode, and we were just flying around Seagull Stacks with the putter between our legs. And we just did that for like 30 minutes as we were just catching up.
Pretending to be Harry Potter. I like it.
Yeah.
It's
So
funny
it's
because
amazing, like
we always
the OG putters,
we always refer to that one as the Gandalf stick. Because it looks sort of like a big Merle,
exactly what I called it. Yeah,
but now
it does look like a
not
staff,
see a broom.
Yeah, especially if you fly around with it and put it between your legs, it does definitely look like a broomstick. But no, they're the OG. The OG putters are still. Yeah, you see, maybe I've never really noticed a quality difference. You probably do now, as I'm like now looking at the putter and going, okay, they have a lot more detail and such, but all of them still are quite unique, and it's really nice when you do the fox hunt. It's such a nice reward to give you a putters. Just to circle back of when you obviously started with Mighty Coconut, what was kind of the first course that you worked on?
I was on original Gothic, so Walkabout Mini Golf is a really fun story in that it was a pandemic project from Lucas. Now, he's in charge of Mighty Coconut. He's really brilliant, both in that he created this from the ground up effectively, but also he still steers the ship. We've got huge art teams, but he still gives, a nice approval on things, or goes, hey, have you thought about this? And it's sort of spooky because his ideas are always right. It's like, imagine if Steve Jobs wasn't a massive jerk. that's what we've got. And so he'd done when Walkabout released, it was the first 4 levels, so it was up to not Arizona Modern.
Yeah, I think that it was
Arizona,
Arizona, Seagull Stacks, Tourist Trap, and
Cherry Blossom and Tourist. Yeah.
And so I joined the team, which was funny. It was at the time it was really just me and Lucas, and I'm in Australia, and so that was fun because he'd give me stuff to do overnight, and I did the top half of original Gothic, so the first 9 holes, everything above ground. I put together that environment. And the first thing I remember, he talks to me and he goes, "All right, I need some mausoleums. I need mausoleums and graves. Go."
Make me some graves.
Yep. And then the next course, Henning, who is one of our, our main course designers, he designed Tethys, and he gave me a really, a block out, and they just sort of said, "All right, have at, see you in a bit."
Yeah.
But each time we've done something, the team has grown, and it's become, a much more involved community putting something together. And you can see every course that we put out becomes better and better.
Definitely builds on,
It's a wonderful testament to sort of how being a team can produce some really, really wonderful results. I mean, I think this one is funny that this level, as I said before, was a training ground. This level's where a lot of new modelers were sort of trying out things, getting involved, and this was the first one where I was transitioning to looking after how the art gets to the tech people. So it was a training ground for a lot of people, and it's still one of the most unique and beautiful and detailed and full courses we've ever done. I mean,
it's a beautiful training ground.
And with lots of, we've got new things, we've got little sort of pipes to blow things, we've got lots more moving objects. I mean, compare this to Tourist Trap, which is still sort of my favorite level because it's the first, it's, what you first experience. But they are completely different and yet almost the same. It's really cool to watch the progress.
Where does the music get inserted? Like, where along the process to the levels?
The music is done parallel. So it's funny. I've been to the States. I've met everyone on the team except for the composer. I feel terrible, but I believe he's given stuff to play around when we do our block out. So the way that we build a level, might give a bit of context here, is that we come up with ideas. We've got literally thousands of ideas written down. It's really funny. We can keep going until like the next millennium. We're good. And say Henning he's one of our main course designers. He'll be designing a level. So he'll be sketching out ideas of how he thinks it should flow, and he will be sketching up whole ideas, and then he'll go into Gravity Sketch, which is a 3D modeling program in VR, and he'll start sketching out how he wants things to flow, and he can stand in and make sure it all fits, and he'll keep iterating on that, and then start building sort of rough versions of the holes, at which point the rest of the team will be coming in and play testing. So the first thing we want to do is be playing the course and going, okay, does this work? Is this fun? Is this unique enough?
Yeah.
If you look at this hole, just the shape, do you go, oh, well, really, I feel like that would fit in a different course? Or do you look at it and go, yeah, that's Nautilus? At which point, I believe we get the composer in to play and see how it feels. But that gets a lot of revision right through to the end. And he's brilliant. He's, the stuff that's... It's really subtle, and it's one of the few looping musics in a game that, doesn't want to make me... throw myself off.
Just shut it off. I agree. I think when you all introduced music, background music, it was just a while ago now when you put that in. But when you first introduced it, I remember playing Cherry Blossom and going, "Oh my gosh, this is just so peaceful and relaxing," and it just adds a completely new layer to the game, and it makes you feel something completely different. So, for example, this 20,000 that we're in at the moment, with with the music in the background, it does feel like you're on this fancy ship in a way. It feels like you're in a fancy ship. And when you see the dining table, which we'll go over later on, and there's people eating lobster, or at least there's lobster on the table, you're like, yeah, this makes sense. It all kind of fits in perfectly. And yeah, I don't know who your composer is, but they're doing an amazing job.
I could look up his name right now. This is so embarrassing. I feel like I'm not appreciating his hard work.
No, it's great. I often, if I'm playing alone, for sure I have the music on. With bigger groups, I turn it off because there's too much going on.
You're listening to people.
Yeah.
His name's Chris Raymond.
Chris Raymond. Chris Raymond, you're doing a fantastic job with this, as well as everyone in the team. So in terms of like talking about, you kind of alluded to it with this DLC and like with Labyrinth and such, and you have a whole host of ideas. I mean, me and Samson have done a podcast where we've got like a wish list of what we would want, like what themes would want. After you first announced Labyrinth, we were like, oh, what else could they do? Could they do Goonies theme? Could they do this? But what kind of are you looking for in these ideas that you think would fit into the Walkabout kind of mold? Because they look like they've been even though that you've probably got a big brainstorm of ideas, Labyrinth just kind of makes sense once I see the course. This one just kind of makes sense. So what kind of like traits in an IP are you kind of looking for?
Okay, so does the fact that they're in the public domain, does that matter?
I mean, it certainly makes things easier because we're given free range to do whatever we want. If they're sort of open and we can just play with them. But one of the most important things is that the environment itself needs to be a character. So, for example, Labyrinth, David Bowie, he's a huge presence. The Goblin King is, oh my god, and all the puppet characters, which is why we do have the characters in the level, but really the Labyrinth itself is one of the major characters of the film. So you can want to be there and you look at it and you want to explore. Mist is an upcoming level. The characters are, actually 3 are trapped in books and you are literally just playing yourself. Really, it's you and your relationship with the space.
Yeah, and being on that island,
what's yeah,
being
exactly.
On that mist island as well. So, yeah.
So if we were to do something like say The Office, it doesn't really. I don't imagine it would work very well because we all know what Dunder Mifflin looks like, but you don't look at The Office and go, oh my god, look at that office. Oh my god, isn't it hilarious? No, it's just an office. No, it's when a character comes and does something, you go, oh well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, so it's so okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you look at the environments more than anything. Like, are those environments iconic or memorable, i.e. Labyrinth, i.e. this ship here, or i.e. Like Mist on the island and such, right? All of those make sense because they are, those environments you think about as well. And that's what we noticed in Labyrinth, right? It's the fact that you go into it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm actually in the movie right now. I'm actually doing what a lot of us have. I mean, me and Samson didn't, but like a lot of kids, did. We watched this film and then 20 years later or 30 years later or whatever, we are now playing the level, and that's the amazement about playing Walkabout in these environments. So that does make a lot of sense with what IP you'd want to choose. And obviously,
there's also an element of wish fulfillment. You want to, when people stepping into the Labyrinth, like you said, so many people, people who watched it as a kid, or it's funny, I'm the right age group, but I completely missed it until I was in my 20s when I watched it and thought, now this is a trip that I love. But it was wish fulfillment. The idea of like, oh my god, I can get to go and be in this incredible space. And I think that's really important for us when deciding what sort of spaces we want to explore, either things that we come up with ourselves or when choosing an IP. And there's also, you might have noticed, 2 types of levels in the game. There is the sort of kitschy ones that are really, really fun, like say, for example, Original Gothic. It's it's wacky and out there, all compared to Cherry Blossom, which is just so relaxing and chill, and it's like a meditation session where you get really, really angry because you just missed that putt.
I was gonna say, I find Cherry Blossom so challenging, and it elicits just frustration within.
Yeah, it's a fun one because
all those angles.
It's physically accurate as well, and it's a soft wood, so it doesn't bounce perfectly. So you think you're gonna line up a shot, and then it's cherry wood. Oh, of course.
I was gonna say some of the wood here, like in this hole that you can see here, the second hole, they do bounce much more than in other levels anyway, in other courses. At least that's what we found.
This is metal, and so you've got a really solid reaction to it. There's no dampening. There's no it's something that the people talk about a lot with this game, which, as an artist, to me, I have no involvement with whatsoever, but I appreciate is that the physics are really intensely accurate.
Yes.
We have a very light sort of CPU load. We're only ever running one simulation at a time. So we run it as high quality as we can, sort of thousands and thousands of samples a second, because we want it to be... Because you don't think, oh, well, the physics, oh my god, that's what I remember about the game. But if they're wrong, everything else falls apart.
Yeah. I mean, it breaks the immersion if the physics aren't right, because, we're playing a mini golf game where we probably are going to bounce it against walls and such like that, or go through pipes. And by the way, the sound design when it comes to, say, the pipes is very satisfying as well. Is that also the composer who does the sound, or the little sound effects?
A lot of it's actually Lucas. For example, in a Labyrinth, we replaced the cheers and everything with the goblins going which
I noticed that playing yesterday. Yeah.
And to get that sound, it was a very serious job. Lucas and his kids and his wife sitting in the car, giggling maniacally into a microphone. A very serious job.
That's cool though, because it sounded fantastic, right? I just noticed. Yeah, the music's great, but the sound design as well is it's a very, very polished game. Which actually leads me on to, I have a question from our Patreon group. Let me just make sure it's from the right person. Yeah, so it's from Dave from Patreon. And he says, when you started out, did the team ever expect to be this big? Were you quite surprised from the success and the reputation that the game's currently got?
It's funny because you work in games or you do something creative, and you always think, because you're pouring your heart and soul into it, well, no, obviously everyone just understands that this is brilliant because you've poured all of your heart into it. Every time someone goes, well, Walkabout's great, I'm going, of course it's great. This has all of my love. But there is, you're working, it doesn't always work out that way. And so there is, I don't believe anyone expected it to be as much of a powerhouse as it is. But also, it's funny, people talk about it, and until you've played it, it doesn't quite make a lot of sense. You go up to someone and you go, now this is one of my favorite games in VR. It's mini golf. And you'll go, oh yeah, mini golf is fun, you played it occasionally, maybe when on holiday, it's fun. But it is quite an addicting game, and everyone does seem to love it. But try and explain it to someone who hasn't played it before. It's a bit of a hard sell.
Yeah, or somebody who just isn't into VR. Like, you want me to get a VR headset to mini golf?
$400 just to play mini golf. But
this is why I'm excited. I'm excited for the iOS app, the AR sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how is production in that currently? Because last time I heard, I think it was on the Mist live stream when they have the Mist. Is it called MistCon or something? I can't remember what it's called. The conference they have with Mist. Mysterium, that's it. I heard that I think maybe it was Lucas who said that you're looking to kind of bring it in at the same time as Mist, if not just before. And how is that? How is development in the iOS app going?
It's going really, really well. It's one of those things where, and this is true once again of any project, not necessarily creative, but the last 10% of a project takes half the time. And so, we're in that last 10%, and it just takes as much effort as the previous 90%. So it's going well because the end is in sight, but it is also just a lot of work because
it's that final polish.
Yeah, the game, there's so much, effort into making it perfect for VR because it's so easy in VR because it's a new medium. No one quite knows all the rules yet. It's so easy to do something that's sickening, that just doesn't work. And so now we've got to preserve that and bring it to AR. And it's both, it is fun, it's fantastic. I've got it on my phone, I do enjoy it. But also, it's not as good because you're looking through a tiny window, and it's sort of, not quite as good to move around. But it's really good, if I've less and less so over the years, but earlier on when none of my friends had a VR headset, and I'm going, come on, guys, I want to show you this wonderful world.
Yeah, that's what I want to play with my dad so badly. Yeah.
Exactly. You're going, okay, well, maybe you can have the headset and I'll use, the iPad or the tablet or whatever digital thing. Yeah. I'm hoping we get it on the Samsung fridges. I think that'll be a perfect use case of it.
The Samsung fridges, did you say?
Crack me up.
I double taked. I was like, wait, are you just doing like a Skyrim and bringing it to everything? Like to the Alexa as well?
And you'd see someone getting Doom running on a pregnancy test. I think we could try for that as well, obviously.
I wonder how the physics will work in the Samsung fridge. But I know that the physics...
You gotta pick up and move the fridge around to look.
Oh, I thought you have to pick up your milk bottle or something, and it kind of does the shot.
No, it's just a really good workout.
I saw that. Lucas was saying that with the physics for the phone, you want it to be like using the accelerometer and actually kind of mimicking a putter in a way. It's kind of hard to explain, to be honest, without actually seeing it in person. But can you explain what the physics is like?
Well, the phones can track where they are in space. So you use it to look around, and if you walk, it walks. But then you hold your phone sort of here, and you swing your body, and if you hold your phone near the ball, it activates the putter, and then you can go and take your shot.
Okay.
And I found one of the best ways to do it is with a selfie stick, and I had to run out and buy a selfie stick because I completely missed that trend. And so I went and bought a selfie stick, and sort of my friends are looking at me
and
going,
that's your golf club.
Okay, you're about to become very unbearable, but sure. But no, you sort of just hold it on the end of the selfie stick, and you get to swing it like a putter. I mean, it's a bit harder to see because it's now meters away from you, but the idea works because the phone just knows where it is. It's technology indistinguishable from magic.
That actually would work really well. I can see companies like Hello Real and all that, trying like bringing in the selfie stick for Walkabout as the new golf club. Kind of will work.
I'd love a Walkabout branded selfie stick. It would make absolutely no sense until you use it.
Exactly. But it will have two use cases. You can take amazing selfies and play golf on the go.
For sure.
So what I was going to ask, Edward, actually, we're in the perfect location right now, with the lobster and such. We have a lot of steam blowing at us at the holes near us, actually. What was the thought process in the steam? Because obviously you have the wind physics in Kyoto Valley, and you've implemented that quite well. It's like a similar-ish physics here, but like when it comes to physics for an actual course, how does that actually get decided as well? Like, how do you come up with the ideas of what you think will work and not work as physics?
Well, there's always discussion of what would be really, really fun to play with, because of course that's the most important bit. If you could build a mini golf course in any way, what would you want to put into it? Obviously, we think everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So, we thought, wouldn't it be really fun if you could, sort of have fans and stuff blowing things around? In which case, what's theme appropriate? Then it's Steam. And of course, there's a lot of testing. They've changed sort of strength and size and location.
Yep.
Everything has changed throughout the testing of the course. And I was saying we do that very, very early on. But of course, refinement still goes all the way through to release, because we just want to keep making it as good as it can be. On Tethys, I believe it's hole 15, which is where there's sort of a black hole style hole, and you've got to putt around it, or you can sort of putt through it. We had a completely different design of that all the way up until about a week before release, when the beta testers all figured out how to get a hole in one every time, no stress. You just hit it a certain way, and none of us had discovered this. You just hit it a certain way, and it bounced and avoided everything, and anyone could do it. You looked at a video once, and you went,
I got it.
At which point it's sort of it's unfair, and it's no longer fun.
It breaks the game. And I agree.
Yeah, and we'd done the art. We were in sort of optimization, and we'd finished the lighting, everything. It was just final checks and final optimization, and last minute we're going, oh my god, we need a new hole. So these things do happen. That's sort of the most extreme it's ever been, but we do play around with everything right up until the end, just to get the most that we can out of it.
Well, that makes sense too, because I was going to ask as well that you do pretty good job most of the time, where all the courses, obviously they have like an easy mode, which is the day and time, and then the night mode, which is like the harder levels, and all of them, I mean, they're not exact one for one in terms of all of them are the same type, kind of easy. Like some might be a tiny bit more easier, some might be a little bit harder, but you do a pretty good job overall balancing it, apart from Tethys Stationing, apparently. I've heard a lot of horror stories in Tethys Station. But is that another thing where that's where the beta testers come in as well, like help make the game more fair? Like it's easy to put something like Steam Physics and make it a little bit too hard for an easy level, right?
Yeah, it's very easy to make something too difficult. There's a lot earlier days, when we were still, learning a bit more, there were a lot of holes originally for easy, then ended up going into the hard version of the level.
Right.
And still, very occasionally, we try and avoid it, but you will have a lot of people go, oh, I don't know, this hole I think is actually easier on the hard level, but it obeys the rules more of that level and that flow.
Right.
And also we generally just, the par might be significantly lower. Because when you come to the next hole, it has to flow. You have to look at it and go, yep, no, this is a new concept, this is new to me, but it also makes perfect sense.
Yeah. How does the process work in terms of developing the easy and the hard holes? Like, do you start everything in easy, for example, and then scale it afterwards to a hard and then change the theme? Or do you kind of work both in hand in conjunction with each other?
It changes level to level.
Right.
For a while, we were doing it where we try and get easy as done as possible and then start on hard. And that worked in some instances, but not well with others. It's one of those things we're always changing because we're just trying to optimize. And we'll die of old age before we figure out the optimal path of designing something. But for example, Shangri-La, which was one that I really loved. That was another one I was just I was given concept art and a block out, and they said, we'll check in a while. Which was
that's a big favorite amongst the Let's Talk Oculus community, by the way, because we had a podcast once where we just ranked our Walkabout, and a lot of people put that one as number 1 or number 2, like a big fan favorite. Big fan favorite. That and Kyoto Valley, I think, were the 2 fan favorites, I would say.
Pretty high, yeah.
Kyoto Valley, I had almost no involvement with, and it's incredible and it's flawless, and I adore it. And I wasn't involved, and I look at it and go, damn, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's like Coyote Valley is my favorite, to be honest. I love it. The only thing I would say with Coyote Valley, I just wish they brought the wind physics in a little bit earlier in the course. But apart from that, it's like pretty flawless. Like it's phenomenal. But yeah,
that went through a lot of changes. At one point, you know, it's been completely different shapes. It was on a mountain. That course was fought for tooth and nail every step of the way. It didn't want to cooperate, and it's the best thing we've ever produced as far as I'm concerned as a result.
Yeah.
It's like stepping into a Miyazaki movie. That's the closest I think we've ever made it to, just in terms of feeling.
Yeah, and the music and the fact that you can explore, there's like these stairs that go all the way to the top of the hill, and you can go all the way up if you want up the stairs, you know, and everything. It's those little hidden Easter eggs which are kind of fun as well, for sure.
Yeah, those are definitely great. What
Absolutely.
What game modes do you expect to add, want to add, hope to add? I know I really would love match play myself. That makes sense.
I'm sure I know what you mean. What do you mean by match play?
Like each hole, basically instead of your score, you'd like each hole would be a point, I guess.
It's a head-to-head.
Yeah.
It's a head-to-head per hole. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Yep, we've got a huge list, and it's one of those things that it's not as high priority as, say, getting the iOS and Android version out. And of course producing new levels, because it's one of those things we are going to do. We are working on. It's just it never gets as much time because we all just want to see new spaces, us and the community.
Yeah.
But I know that one that I talk about a lot behind the scenes and is terrific, and you can test this yourself. If you play on Steam VR, you can change your render scale, and it's really meant to just be a percent in either direction to sort of correct the world if the game is off scale. But you can push it. You can absolutely push it to extremes, and you can play the game where it's shrunk you down so much. Golf balls are 1/2 meter wide, and it is the most ridiculous fun because you've got to really hit those as hard as you can, and it makes some levels completely impossible. But it is a really, really fun way of exploring the worlds anew. And so I know that's one, you know, we want to do sort of just mirror version where you mirror everything, race version where you all just sort of go at the same time, and whoever gets to the end of the level first, sort of thing. It's you know, not
it doesn't matter how many strokes,
just get there. Get there.
Speed goal.
But a lot of these, a lot of these also make things harder. Say, for example, that one, the whole game was built from the ground up with the idea that okay, you take your turn, and then the next person takes its turn, and that's how the code and everything is structured. So, you know, that one, it makes perfect sense. That's one we desperately want to do. We have to do it. But it takes way more work than you'd initially expect. So it's one of those things that obviously we're not nearly there enough to make those decisions, but when we get there, I doubt it would be, here are all the different game modes. It would be more akin to, hey, we've put in a new game mode. Hey, we've put in a new game mode. We probably strip them out, make sure they work, make sure they're fun.
Right.
For sure. With the courses, obviously you've got this one, you've got Labyrinth, you've got Mist as like the 3 probably licensed kind of courses that you have. Are you trying to have like a balance between original created content and licensed content, or is it kind of just a random of what you just have go on the go and what's closer to completion of how it comes out?
We don't want to become overly reliant on either of them. It's funny, I don't think any of us thought of this as licensed because it's obviously an existing IP. But it's in the public domain, so the way we approached it was, how would we interpret this? Which we do for IPs as well, but when it's something like Mist or Labyrinth, we're working with other teams to make sure it's perfect, which is not a bad thing. Everyone has been an absolute delight to work with, but it does change your approach. Whereas something like this, we just sort of went, okay, let's go nuts. It's a lot more sort of standard. And I know there are lots of levels coming out that aren't IP connected. Plenty that are, you know, some that aren't close to finish at all, some that are really close to finish. I think in terms of like modeling is fairly late in the game, but I know you know, we're working on levels that don't come out till 2023, and we're in other stages of levels for 2024. We are so far ahead.
I don't think I'd be able to hold my tongue working for Mighty Coconut. Like, the NDA would just kill me. Like,
2024. Wow.
I'd have to talk about these
it's
courses.
stressful. I want to just go. It's really fun is that when someone on the community, because for example, like the Discord and the Facebook groups, we adore. We are so lucky because we all know gaming communities can be hit or miss, but we are blessed with the best damn community. Everyone is so kind, so caring to each other. You know, someone new will come in and everyone just sort of goes, "Come here, we'll look after you." And my favorite thing is when someone might go, "Oh, guys, you know, I'd really love a course set in," and I'm there going, "Oh my god, it's so close to release, you have no idea, and you don't know it exists, and you're about to be the happiest person in the world in like 5 weeks."
Oh god. Oh god.
That's got to be a nice feeling for sure. My question is now, because you have all these. Yeah, I mean, you have all these courses and then all these more courses coming out. What are you going to do with the hut? That hut's pretty jam-packed at the moment with all those courses. Like, where are you going to put them? Is there a second hut coming?
It's I know that the main menu redesign is a work channel that we have going, and it started originally when we were going, okay, we want to make the main menu a hub that you want to spend time in, because, you know, often you're waiting for people there, and originally it was just sort of you stood there and you could sort of walk a couple feet in either direction and sort of look across, but that was it. So there was a lot of work going, okay, well, we need this, we want putting greens, we want places to explore, we want it to be you go in there and you're going to enjoy being there in itself. But now that's transitioned to how we handle the main menu going forwards, and there's lots of different ideas and playtest, and there's lots of things that work really well, things that don't work, we're changing. And then of course it also has to work for the AR version of the game coming out.
Lots of things
because
to balance.
The hub is, you know, the main menu is a hub that you're in, so we can't say give a completely different main menu to AR players, because what if you're in VR and your mate's coming in on AR? You know, is he just not going to be there? How do you know when they're ready? We've got it's a whole thing. Yeah, but it is being worked on.
It is being worked on.
There's lots of
we were speculating on that within the community that we have on what's happening with that hub, but it actually kind of leads me on
sorting the balls too. A lot of balls.
Yes, we have a lot of balls now.
Oh yes. Yes, this is. It's funny. When I was saying I designed the balls and putters, the first thing I do when I design them is I unlock them on my account. I get them into the game and I unlock them because I then want to test them. You know, I might think, say, I work in Blender, and I might look at it and go, well, that is flawless. What a great ball design. And then you get into the game and you can't really read it, you can't really see it, it's all a bit grey. And this is, you know, much more important for the putters because they all work the same. But what if something's obscuring the vision? What if it doesn't feel right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of testing, which means that currently I have about 600 golf balls on that menu screen. And whenever I go towards the menu and I'm playing on the quest, it chugs. It starts dropping frames and it sort of click, click, click. And so if I'm playing a game with friends, I sort of turn my head to the side and just make sure they're not rendering and go, hey, you guys, choose a level, would you? Let's go. So it is also something that we're going to have to
For sure.
But,
I mean,
also
I see it in the Discord. It's one of the biggest requests in terms of having some balls that you can sort out those, like put some favorites on some of those balls that you have and such. So I can see that it's a common request. What I was gonna say in terms of the hut, and obviously you put in the practice mode, you put in the driving range per se, which was a very surprising update. It kind of, I don't know, it came out left field for me. I didn't think that was gonna happen, and you put it in. And, I want to give a quick shout out to Dave in the Patreon, because I thought, okay, practice mode, it might just be some fun when you're waiting, right? But me, Dave, and a few of the people from the Patreon and the Discord had so many fun games that we just made up on the spot, in that practice mode. Maybe like a speed golf, like you said, or we're on, say, the 17th, and we're going, okay, let's pick a hole two.
I was gonna say,
how do we get to that?
I love throwing the balls. Yeah, pulling them out from behind your ear.
Is, of course, where everything goes now is that. It's
and now we're just playing with
particularly fun. When we were first early days, well, not so early, but earlier, Meta, Facebook, Oculus, can't remember what they were at the time. They released their workrooms, which was meeting software for VR.
Yeah.
And we work distance. The company is primarily based in Austin, Texas. But you can tell from my nasally dulcet tones, I'm Australian. And one of, our sort of head overseeing designers, Don, he's in Oregon, I believe. Some people are in New York. So obviously we're not having meetings in person. And we could have the meetings in this workrooms, and it was fantastic, and we loved it. And there's a limit to how many avatars they can support, because it does start chugging, and then they stop letting you add people in, because it's too heavy. And the company got bigger, so we started having our meetings in this game. We've got a version of it where we can have infinite players in a room just for having meetings. It completely doesn't work if you're playing a game, but we'll be in practice mode. We'll be, all standing around, possibly on a new level that we're working on, and then someone will say something terrible, and everyone just goes, ah! Throws golf balls at them.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I was gonna say, you know what? Feel free to send us that build. We don't mind doing the podcasting here all the time. It's actually working pretty well.
It's true.
Okay, so now we're in Coyote Valley. This is why, I know we have more listeners of the podcast than YouTube video watchers, but this podcast is definitely for those video watchers, because we are now having a nice little date, a nice little picnic spot with Edward over here. Edward, I brought the strawberries. Samson,
I brought the knife.
You brought with you there? Oh, you brought the knife to cut the tops of the strawberries.
That's a knife. Nice. This is a knife.
Samson, you brought the liquor here. Maybe some wine.
And this, my satchel, or not satchel. My thing of gold.
Right.
I got a thing of gold. Yeah.
Right. In case we wanted to buy more strawberries afterwards.
Yeah.
Very important.
A lot of polygons on those strawberries.
This space. Yeah, they're the highest polygon asset in the whole game. For a little
I'm really
blanket,
there's so many angles on those strawberries, dude.
Oh, the strawberries. Wow.
Yeah.
And so, Edward, this obviously we're in Coyote Valley. You said that you didn't work really on this. This wasn't like one of yours as much, but you worked on this little date spot that we're currently in.
Yeah, this level was being worked on primarily after Don, who is sort of the creative overseer lead. Effectively, our titles are just for business cards. In my mind, he's Don. He does magical art. And something he talked to us about before he even joined the team was that he loved in Bogey's Bonanza that lots of little stories had been set up. At one point you're putting around a little campfire and stuff like that, where you could see that not necessarily a whole world to happen, but you go, oh well, this is a place where stuff occurs. It makes it just feel a little bit more alive. And so we were all really still holding that in our heart as we worked on this. And at one point I was here doing a bit of cleanup of stuff and I put a little date scene in. Fun fact, that E there
Is your name?
in the E plus N is me. That's Edward.
And who is the N?
The N is my partner, who shall hitherto remain nameless. Edward and Nameless.
Yes, the N.
No,
and
but
nameless
it is
N.
actually the first letter of their name.
Oh, that's very nice. That makes a lot of sense now. Wow.
It was funny.
fact, see?
After it
Oh,
released,
gosh.
I put them in. They didn't have a VR headset at the time, although I got them one later. And I said, put the headset on, play this level. There's a thing in it. There's a thing in it for you. And, I left them. And then I heard this, oh my God, that's beautiful. And I race in and go, oh, you see it? And apparently they're patting the sheep. And they go, oh, look at the sheep. Look at the sheep. And I go, I put in a date for you. Did you see, E plus N? They're like, oh, yeah, I saw that. That was nice. But the sheep.
The sheep won their heart.
This has got me
Worthwhile.
this has got me thinking, like, obviously the Walkabout Discord community is fantastic, right? There's a lot of great people in there. I could see one day there being maybe a Walkabout proposal, They contact you and, hey, I want to propose, and Edward goes, okay, I'll change the E plus N to someone else, and will you marry me? I can see this happening.
I need a ring
what do you
ball.
think,
Absolutely.
Edward?
Would be so on board. If you're listening and want to propose to someone, the whole team, I imagine, would just absolutely do whatever needed to help this occur.
I like it.
Absolutely. Speaking of like the community, I have a question from PJ from VR Verdict, who is behind the camera there, and also Eric from Patreon asked a very similar thing. They both say, is it possible that potentially one day the community can design their own balls, or kind of can come up with their own concepts?
It's something that I know I'd love to do because the community is the best part of the game, and it'd just be a nice thing to do. So far, we haven't figured out how. The way to keep this running on, things like the Quest, and, all the other, now we're getting a lot of self-contained headsets and, soon phones, is that we got to keep things light in a certain way. It's funny, we actually use more polygons in this game, even though it's low poly, than just about any other VR game on Quest. I think, a level might have 100,000 polys, and then in our game it has 600,000 sort of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
And so we have to keep materials and different rendering processes incredibly tight. So all of the golf balls use one material throughout the whole game forever. And we do it via very careful texturing. And so we've got one texture sheet, and that texture sheet has to last the entire life of the game.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah, we can never really expand it. This is the it. And so we've got to be really, really careful. And so I think, okay, well, I'm sure we could rope off some space for people to have their own custom golf balls. But then when they bring their golf ball into a game, how do we assign that texture on the fly? As they enter a room, we'd have to say, okay, well, the first person's here. Quickly, open that Photoshop file, save their texture in, render it out, get it back into the game, which is a bit hard for a headset to handle.
For sure.
So maybe if for some reason the Quest and the Quest 2 retire and then the Quest 3 is a lot more powerful, we have to do something else, but effectively all of our extra resources we're just putting into the levels. So it's a bit of a pain because well, that's where all the resources go. But it's a pain because it's something I think would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
But it's just a sort of a technical limitation.
Yeah.
That said, when I design them, I always am trying to listen to what people are requesting on the Discord and the Facebook. And, if someone requests something and I think that is a genius idea and it's not one of the 600 balls I've already done, or maybe it's one I've already done but people are requesting it, I'll try and make sure that's a golf ball that gets used in an upcoming level sooner rather than later. I remember we had a golf ball covered with like little kiss marks, and someone goes, "Why not a kiss, on a golf ball?" And I'm like, "Ha, we've got that one. I'll make sure that comes out in the next level. They will be so happy."
Nice,
You do need.
nice.
So
if the plan is to do a month of course, that is a lot of golf balls in.
It's a lot of
year.
golf balls.
Yeah, that's a lot of golf balls.
I mean, just to kind of like elaborate a little bit on Eric's, because Eric just gave me a little bit more context to that question that he also asked. He said maybe an alternative could be like a community contest where there's like some sort of walkabout contest, and say the winner gets the chance of designing a ball or something like that. But maybe it's also another thing where there's so many constraints that it might be very difficult to pull off. It's not just like, oh, here's a drawing, yeah, no worries, we can put it in. It's a lot more to it, right?
Well, we can generally, when I do a golf ball, and now we have our concept artist doing a lot of them as well. He'll give me a concept design, and I'll go, "Oh, I can't achieve that, but I can achieve something similar." But that's because I'm trying to conserve space and resources as much as possible. But if it was, say, a competition ball, it's so unique, and everyone will be playing with it for a while. I'm sure I could just say give it the resources of 2 or 3 golf balls, and it would be a lot more forgiving and flexible. And that way we'd be able to just go with whatever the person designed. And I'm sure that'd be, worthwhile spending those extra resources. But, when I'm designing golf balls, I wouldn't let myself, because I know I've got to do like 18 golf balls for a level, every level, forever. But assuming we're not running that competition constantly, I'm sure we could do it. And I think that's a really awesome idea. I'll pass that on to David, who's our community marketing whiz, and say, we need this. I want this, David.
Yeah,
Please
maybe you
make it
could
happen.
like do it seasonal or something for Christmas, for example, or maybe just like once or twice a year could be a fun little project or something. Or hey, you're coming to the next I don't know, say the next Gardens of Babylon's the next course. We're gonna host a quick community, like who wants to be one of the hidden balls kind of thing. So yeah, not to do it every single month. I feel like that's that's a little bit too much, but maybe just once a year or something like that. That could be fun to get the
That'd be
community
great
involved.
fun.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
I like
I was
as
gonna
well you said
ask
once a year. We all know this game's going for many years.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
The belief.
I do think about like the next, when Quest 3 comes out eventually, and I feel like eventually there'll have to be a Walkabout 2, and like that will be an interesting transition, I think.
It's funny. It's not something that we go, okay, no, here's an idea, but we'll save it for Walkabout 2, because effectively we can put anything we want into this game. I mean, so far the issue is being resource bound, but we've used that to build an art style. So if we did a different one, well, would we want to get rid of this art style, or would we want to keep it the same? Presumably keep it the same, at which point, where's the
Just
benefit?
make it bigger.
Yeah. Exactly. And, it's... We want, everything to be approachable and something that everyone can get together and play. If it was Walkabout 2, well, we'd just be doing more levels and more of the same. At which point you've split the community, because it's, oh, we want to play a game of Walkabout. Oh, is it Walkabout 1 or is it Walkabout 2?
Yeah.
Oh, Gary
Very
or Samantha, they don't have Walkabout 2, they only have Walkabout 1, and I've only got Walkabout 2. So at the moment, all we're thinking is, okay, just, if we have a cool idea, let's put it in the first one so everyone can keep playing. And that's really important to us, is because as well, when there's a new course out, not everyone wants to or can afford to buy all the DLCs.
The guest passes are nice,
but
yes.
Yeah, if the person hosting the room has the level, then everyone can play it. It's important that everyone gets to enjoy it all together. Like, that's really important to us, is just make it accessible, get everyone in, and just everyone will be happy. And if everyone's happy,
honestly,
it all just flows from there.
The fact that people on the guest passes can still see the balls and the scavenger hunts, the fox hunts, it makes it more enticing. They're like, oh, I want to be able to find these, like actually own these balls. I like it.
Yeah, no, I love the guest pass feature. So this game is very accessible in terms of a lot of people can play it, no matter what their background or anything like that. Like they can come to this even if they haven't played VR before. It's a very easy game. I think most when I've shown VR to like my family or people who are just never been in VR before, the first game I put them into is Walkabout. You know, like my roommate, for example, he's not very techie at all, but he always says, "Oh, Dan, can I play some mini golf?" I was like, "Sure." And he asked me the other day actually because I was saying that I was going to have you onto the show, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't played it for so long. How many courses?" And I was like, "Oh, you've missed quite a few DLCs. You've got to play." And it's nice because it's so accessible, and I see what you're saying with that because even with the mobile app that's coming out, that's still going to be cross-play within, you know, people on the app can still play with people in VR, so it also makes it more, you know, inclusive. Now you have a full demographic who don't even own a VR headset can now play, you know, because everyone has a smartphone per se.
Yeah.
The thing is as well, this wasn't the intention, but it is a bit of a side effect. You play the game on the app and it's just not as good because you want to just be there instead of looking through a window. So I have a feeling that some people might play on the app
It's
and
like
go,
a gateway.
"I'll sod it, I'll get the headset."
Yeah, it's like a gateway drug kind of. It can be one or two ways. It can either be like, oh, now my mum can play if she really wanted to because she's not going to ever get a VR headset. But then now my dad can play and go, you know what, I'm just going to buy this VR headset because I really want to really want to play in VR. So it can be like a little like gateway drug into VR, which is pretty cool.
Could use more of those.
For sure.
I would love to see
Yeah.
Walkabout being played at like high schools competitively, like there's some like college Walkabout teams, something like this. I think that
There are competitive players, people who take it very seriously, and I love them so much because I am terrible at this game, and I watch people play it and I go, "Thank God someone's good at it. Thank God."
I did it was for, I think it was the Val Esports. They did well, I mean they do it normally in the winter ones. They do the Walkabout competitions, and one time I was lucky enough just to commentate on them. I mean, they were playing Tetty Station, and it was the final round, so it was like, you know, whoever wins the grand prize and such. And my gosh, these four people, they're putting out these shots that I've not even seen before, you know? I think one of them was Inner Princess, who's quite popular on YouTube because they go into every single hole and show you how to get hole-in-ones and such. But yeah, I remember commentating going, oh my gosh, I feel like an imposter because they should be commentating what they're doing because I have no idea what they're doing. They're just pulling out some magic. But those trick shots are really fun when you see like the community getting involved, would be trying to be creative to kind of use the physics around the environment and, you know, pull something off. It's quite remarkable because I'm pretty sure you don't design a level to go, okay, they can probably use this for a trick shot. There's probably a lot of trick shots out there that you probably didn't know, and they're just, you know, pulling it off with the environment.
We have no idea. We know they're going to do something, but we don't know what. We do try and, like, the most that we do is if, say, for example, in Labyrinth, you know, all the holes are set into the ground. And an important thing is that, well, we want it to be somewhat predictable, so the sides of the brick have to be flat so that when you hit it, it doesn't, you know, fly off into nowhere, because that'd be frustrating for the average player. But then I remember there was the hole with, like, the two doors. One tells truth, one tells lies. I'm sure it made it in. We made it so that the bricks behind you were at an angle. Because as a standard player, you're not going to hit backwards. But we know the trick shot people are going to explore. So, and if it was all perfectly flat, the trick shot people would be trapped in there forever and not be able to move. So it's like, well, we've got to make sure it's fun for them too. So we gave them a little out. And we're like, we know something funny is going to happen here if we keep an eye on the Discord and Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, we have... well, PJ was in this game with us. We was PJ. There was a few of us, I think. Samson, you were in there too. Gina as well. Where, oh, sorry, with the stick. I think it was Gina, Kimberly, PJ, Samson, and me. We were in Gardens of Babylon, and on one of the holes there's a ramp, which we now call ramp rock because it's a little rock that you can kind of hit off to make it a ramp, and it's become like it's like an insider meme that we even have art with the rock, and we have it on our podcast as well on the side with the
it's
rock.
in the VR
with
Verdict
ramp
podcast as well.
Yeah, but there's things that we just
Ramp
kind of
rock.
just come up with on the fly. Ramp rock.
And now every
I
time in future
that.
courses we see rocks that could be used as ramps, we pay homage to Ramp Rock.
Oh, for sure, the original.
Yeah.
It's amazing
You're
when
never
you see
sure
the
what will
community of
make a
what they
meme.
can come up with. Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely. Edward, thinking back to the hut and with the driving range and the practice area. I know that there's other games, for example, Golf Plus, right? They have, it's not similar to Walkabout. It's a golf game, but it's completely different. But they have like social aspects to that, where they've got like a hub where maybe they have people can play cornhole or just sit on sofa and roast marshmallows and such. Because of obviously, I mean, we're doing a podcast in Walkabout right now. There's an amount of times that people just be social in here rather than actually play golf. Any kind of ideas, or have there any been ideas floating around in kind of having something that is just more social based than having any golf into it, like for some of those modes outside the actual hut?
Well, it is one of those things that we're always playing around with, what's fun, what's accessible, not too overwhelmingly different. There's a certain level where something can be fun, but only 5% of the players would understand how to do it, at which point it's sort of pointless. I mean, just shout out to Golf Plus. Great game, really lovely dev team. Ryan Engel is one of their top people. Follow him on Twitter.
Fantastic.
He's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
But yeah, it is one of those things that we're always playing around with, what's a sort of a fun game to do. And there was discussions over in the main menu, now that we can throw the golf balls, do we make a hole that, a little game that you just have to throw golf balls into? And then we realized we were already doing that anyway, and we didn't have to, prescribe an area for it. People would just do that and have fun, and it's, make their own fun in their own way. I mean, a game that people play in this, which I had no idea of for ages, is hide and seek. They turn off the rendering of the name tags, and people will hide somewhere, and they have to go find them, or they might play sardines, which I think is the funniest thing in the world.
I like that.
Playing sardines in a mini golf course, and I've played it with friends. It's hysterically funny. Would definitely recommend it. So yeah, it is something that we're always sort of discussing and playing around with, but there's also okay, well, how much does this add? Is this taking away from anywhere? Is it still accessible? It's that balancing.
Right.
Again.
And I think, like you said, the people who actually would want that are probably already doing it in their own way anyway. Like the picking up the ball and trying to throw it into something, right? That's something that we played at a Discord where we've tried to go on the practice hole and drop it into things. I'm trying to do it, but I can't do it. It keeps rolling off.
I believe the wind's here, so it's not going to fall.
I was going to say.
Oh yes, the wind.
It's doing some.
It's windy. It is breezy here. Sweet. Okay, so no, thanks Edward for joining us in Walkabout. It's been a lot of fun to kind of hear, because we play this every single week at least, right, with the community and then in our own time as well. And it's nice to hear what happens behind the scenes a little bit, to kind of really appreciate the level of work that you do to bring these courses in, because obviously we see everything working and it's amazing, and the standard is so high now. But to actually understand exactly what process goes behind it, and to actually put a voice and an avatar face at least to some of the designs that we know and love is pretty nice.
For sure.
It's pretty
I look
nice.
forward to the courses coming out more than like my birthday. And it still blows my mind that when I first came in here, it was just the first 8. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, you've almost
it is
doubled
getting a bit big.
it. You've almost doubled it in terms of DLC. The DLC, I think, yeah, after Mist, or if you put out one before Mist, um, then that that's double, exactly double
I was
from
about to
the
say,
free
oh, we've got
courses.
one coming before Mist, but that was 20,000 leagues under the sea. I'm so used to saying, oh, there's one before Mist that we haven't announced. Oh, it's there. There it is.
Perfect. And
It's
just
happened.
to Mist is due for November, right? At the moment.
I don't know the exact date.
Yeah.
What we tend to do is try and get everything beyond perfect and then announce a release date because it's not the worst thing in the world, but a really annoying thing is when you're excited and you have that taken away.
And then it gets delayed,
And we've got such an understanding community. Everyone seems to get that we want to announce things when they're ready. Once we've done an announcement and a trailer, the game is already ready. It's got a couple days, and we'll use those days to just extra perfect.
Just refine, yeah.
Always.
Absolutely. One thing actually, I just wanted to put a quick suggestion of my own out here. You know how you can random easy, hard, and any? I would love a feature where I could say favorite, say just the DLC, or favorite, say Tourist Trap, Cherry Blossom, Arizona, and Seagull, say the original ones, and only random those if I wanted to, rather than the whole thing. So then we could create like a little tournament. Go, okay, we're going to play these 4 courses in random order and go in that way. That would be one of my
fun idea.
That's because what we want to do for podcast listeners and people on the Discord, especially, and patrons. We want to at Christmas time host like a little walkabout competition within our community where we have like 3 or 4 rounds and say the best score wins, or maybe the best trick shot also gets like maybe a T-shirt or something of one of our merch. And having like the ability to favorite say 3 or 4 courses and only randomize those, they will be welcome. But yeah, I just wanted to say.
All right, I'll make sure the team hears about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. Edward, thank you very much. Thanks to PJ and Kai also behind the cameras for filming this podcast. It's been a lot of fun. In fact, I feel like this has actually worked really well in Walkabout.
That's what I'm
much
saying.
more
Dude.
than other stuff.
We might be onto something.
I expect
we've been
all
trying
the
in,
future
like,
ones that I
workrooms.
watch to be in Walkabout.
Yeah, and it has to be through the DLCs as well to go through those. No, we appreciate it a lot, Edward, and we appreciate the whole Walkabout team. I want to shout out, I believe it was David who kind of set me up with you as well.
Yeah.
So shout out to David, who's been in good communication and sorting out this interview as well. To everybody, we will see you next week for a regular Zoom version of a podcast. Bye now.